The Nutcracker 2024, which I say 2024 because I literally have to search up the Nutcracker 2024 movie just to find this thing. Like it's really actually hard to search for this movie on Google. This is a new Hulu original movie that I was mildly excited for because a little secret I don't share a lot. I'm a huge Ben Stiller fan. He is my favorite director. Um, or not my favorite director, but one of my favorite directors. I would say top two. Um, I think he's a super funny guy, a genuinely nice person. I think, he is very talented and uh, very interesting person. And he's inspired me a lot creatively. I made a short film where I ripped off his movie, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. I fell in love with that movie. It got me into the idea of directing a film. And, later in my life, I've kind of grown out of that stage of my life and not really had that drive to make movies. But when I did for a minute, it was because of him, and he's really inspired me a lot as a person. Um, these are all things I would tell him if I met him in real life. Though I'd be very scared to do it. So if you're watching, Ben, which I'm sure you are, I love you, man. I joke a little bit, but yeah. I do really appreciate him. And so, whenever I see him doing a new movie or new project, I try to check it out. And I saw this was coming out, and there's not really anything new in theaters this week because all the movies for Thanksgiving just came out, and I've seen Moana, I've seen Gladiator, I've seen Wicked. I don't need. There's nothing in theaters for me to go check out. Literally at the 5 theaters in my town, I was like, is there anything like new or interesting I haven't seen? Couldn't find anything, so I needed something to review this week, and I was gonna watch this anyway. So here's my review, and I will say I was very disappointed with this film. This is directed by David Gordon Green, who directed the last Halloween trilogy, which not great. He did the Exorcist movie. He is on a bad streak of movies. His last 3 movies was this, Halloween Ends, and Exorcist Believer. So, yikes, man. I don't know if you're a bad director or just choosing bad projects or what it is, but fucking stop. This is not as bad as those 2 I just mentioned, but it is on the list of not great films he's directed because this movie essentially it just doesn't work on so many levels. Basically, the plot of this movie is Ben Stiller's character. I'm just going to call Ben Stiller's character because it really doesn't matter. Sister dies, and he gets called. He's like a business guy. Gets called to go out and take care of these kids till they can find their foster home. And he needs to get back and finish this deal. But, and through the course of the movie, he ends up falling in love with these kids and just ends up being their dad and adopting them, which sounds like a pretty simple movie in principle, right? This is kind of this is a movie I would describe as generic because that's a plot we see in a lot of movies. Doesn't mean it can't work, right? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's the saying for a reason. But the structure of this movie is just very awkward. First of all, there's no life or energy to the film or the direction at all. Ben Stiller has no chemistry with these kids. These kids aren't really given a lot of personality or interest to them. Like, I think one kid mentions at one point randomly that he wants to be a wrestler, or that because his mom died, he gave up dancing or some shit. I'm like, okay, like, very awkward. They live on a farm, but that's not really, anything that's really brought out really well throughout the movie. Like even the lady says, hey, what about these kids' farm? They got a lot of animals to take care of. And I'm sitting here like, what? Like, at one point they had a chicken in their house, and that's about it. Like, and they had a barn, but you don't see any animals. So, Like, what? They have a farm, but I don't know. What? Didn't make a lot of sense. There's like little things like that, little lines of dialogue, things that happen in the movie. And none of it's interesting. It's just boring, but a lot of it doesn't make sense either. And then Ben Stiller, uh, you know, doesn't really have any energy in this movie because he's not given anything. These kids aren't really given anything. They're not. And also, I'm gonna be real. Movies like this depend on kids being cute. These kids aren't cute, and I'm not trying to nitpick on these kids, but I am saying like these actors are not like. It's not even like they're. I'm not saying these kids aren't cute. It's that the movie doesn't try to make them cute, and then at the end of the movie when they do this Nutcracker play, it's really bizarre. And they make it sound like, oh, they're going to do this Nutcracker thing, and it's so bizarre because that's the title of the movie, but it doesn't even happen to like literally last 30 minutes. Almost kind of falls kind of random, and then it's like a normal movie would progress this movie over time of like Ben Stiller slowly falling in love with these kids and wanting to be their dad. But that's not what happens here. He almost kind of just feels like he's forced into it, and he doesn't really feel like a dad. I was like, you don't really. Also, a movie like this would give you a reason why Ben Stiller is kind of as uptight as he is. And I wouldn't even say Ben Stiller's that uptight. He seems like a normal guy in this movie. Like, hey, he works a business job. He wants to get back to it. He has a life. He doesn't want to be a dad, and not in the normal way of I'm a curmudgeon. I don't want to be a dad. No, he just doesn't want to be a dad, and and then it feels like at certain points this movie is trying to force the family agenda onto you. Like, literally, the social worker or whatever, foster lady is like literally telling Ben Stiller, hey, some people can't have kids. Those boys are lucky to have you. And it's like, I don't feel the bond here between these people. And then it's also like, are you literally trying to guilt trip him into wanting kids? I mean, even the kid overhears, and the kid is like, if you don't want us, you shouldn't be forced to have us. Yeah! He shouldn't be! Like, he's not... Like, it almost felt like this movie is trying to force the idea that people have to be parents. It's like, is this like a conservative movie? Like, are you trying to force, like, the idea of, like, family agenda onto people? I joke a little bit, but, like, I don't know. It felt very weird in the messaging and how things kind of played out. I don't mind the idea of people having families, but it felt like very weird of like, normally the message of these movies is found family, right? But it doesn't feel like they found family. It just feels like these people are in this awkward situation. The kids don't really connect with him. He doesn't really connect with them. He has a job and a life. Also, you don't really see his life in Chicago, which is a missed opportunity. It felt like, I don't know. This is an hour and 44-minute movie, and it feels like nothing happens until like the last 30 minutes until they do the little Nutcracker show. But even that had like no life or energy, so really nothing happened, and then the movie just ended. It's a very weird structured movie. Of a movie that on paper is so simple to make. Like, they make tons of movies like this. They make movies about people who don't want to be parents, ending up with kids and having to work with these kids, and then they fall in love with the kids and then become their parents, Movies like this happen a lot, but yeah, not a great movie. Let me know your thoughts, like, share, and subscribe.